Hello, listeners. So today we have with us Matinat Ajeigbe from Stears. She's currently the Chief of Staff at Stears. So she'll be walking us through a few things that she's currently working on with her organization. So welcome, Matinat.
Hi, Christian. Thank you so much for having me. So glad to be here.
Thanks again for agreeing to do this with us. So I'm just going to introduce you briefly to our listeners, and I would ask that you maybe extend some time to sort of share a little about your past work, your current work, etc., and then we'll go into the conversation proper from there. So
Mm.
so Martin, and I understand from a bit of research on your background, etc., that you did your youth service in CBN, and then after that you went on to do like a business analyst role that was sort of fused in HR with Phillips Consulting, and then you then went on to Steers, if that's if that all adds up. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And then in between, I think you did an undergrad at Aston University, and then you did a master's with the London School of Economics. So so maybe share a little more about yourself so that our listeners can sort of have a full grasp of your background, etc.
Yeah, sure. Well, you got all the facts right. As you mentioned, I did I did start off my undergrad at Aston University in Birmingham in the UK. That's where I did accounting. So I started off on the accounting route. But when I got back to Nigeria to serve, while I did work in the CBN, I actually worked in a subdivision within HR. Actually, I worked with the pensions team. So I would probably say that that was where I got a glimpse into HR. And my preceding, the subsequent role at Philips, then it was a graduate program. I got to rotate across the different divisions, and I just found myself, in training, realized that actually HR seemed like a really interesting, it seemed like an interesting role, and I decided why not go get a master's in it. So I went to do that at LSC, and finished that thinking, oh, okay, I'm gonna get right into HR. Um, and I got this lovely opportunity to join Stairs as a chief of staff. So while it wasn't specifically HR, it seemed like a very interesting opportunity. And I'd heard about Stairs, heard about the great things that they were doing, and I just thought, well, why not?
I think your screen is paused or mine. I'm not sure. It's possibly yours.
All right. So yeah, you pretty much got my intro. At least you got the facts right. So basically, as you mentioned, I started my undergrad at Aston University in Birmingham. I studied accounting, um, and the plan was to sort of get into the accounting track. When I moved back to Nigeria for my NYC, um, I had the opportunity to serve at the CBN. Ironically, I actually served within the HR unit of the CBN, or a subdivision within HR, so the pensions team. But that was sort of my first, exposure into HR. And then following my subsequent role at Philips Consulting Limited, where I got into a graduate program and I got to rotate, I realized I really did enjoy sort of the people elements of the role. And that led me to deciding to go on to do a master's in HR, just to learn a bit more about it. And that was what took me on to LSC, the London School of Economics, where I got my master's. When I concluded that, I thought I was going to get into HR, but um, I had this lovely opportunity, or I was, introduced to this lovely opportunity to work as a chief of staff at Stairs. And, I'd heard about what Stairs was doing. I was quite interested in the company, and all that they had to offer. And I was like, you know what? seemed like a great opportunity. It seemed like I was going to be able to learn a lot, and I decided, why not just take on this opportunity? And so that's how I found myself here. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to walk us through that. That's super interesting. I actually wanted to do my internship at CBN actually when I was back in the UK as well. So I think it's super that you got to work there. And pensions is also super interesting as well. I worked for a pensions company called Aegon Asset
Oh, okay.
in Edinburgh after my university. So yeah, so I definitely understand a little about that. That's
Yeah,
it's something that would have been different to work in as an intern for sure.
it definitely was. It was an interesting learning experience.
So maybe you can just share a little about Stears. I think I liked we had a prior conversation, I think back in April, and I think I liked the way you shared what Stears was and what you do, etc. So I wanted our listeners to sort of eavesdrop into that conversation. So I wanted us to maybe look at that again. So please, if you don't mind sharing a little about what your company does, etc.
No, not me trying to like recall what I said in April. Like, oh, so what exactly did I say? Well, I will try my best. So basically, Stairs is a data intelligence startup. Our mission is very simple. It's literally to become the trusted provider of African data and insights. We already understand that getting data in Africa, in Nigeria, or on Africa or on Nigeria is quite difficult. Getting accurate data is even harder. So what we are really trying to do is we want to be that one-stop shop where, individuals, corporations can come to say, okay, I need to know about this particular sector, you know, within the Nigerian economy. And we'll be like, yeah, we got that data for you. We've analyzed it, we've broken it down. Here you go. And then, you can use it for whatever you want to use it for. And so pretty much we aim to do this in a multitude of ways. One of the more popular known ways we're doing this is through our Steers Premium um, publication, which is it's pretty much, we provide daily insights on various sectors within Nigeria. And it's literally just, we look at the news that's out there or any information or data that's out there. And what we look to do is we look to break it down and then provide a thorough analysis as to, what it is, why it is the way it is, and potentially just, what that means. Because another thing with data is that you can have the data and not necessarily understand what it means or what to do with it. And so what we do is we try to sort of break that down and make it very, very easily understandable. Um, Alternatively, we also have an advisory boutique option, which is kind of where we provide bespoke advisory services to multinationals, to government institutions. It's quite bespoke because we focus on specific sectors. But that's also about data collecting, analyzing that data, and then providing it in a reporting format to help those organizations make decisions that are very vital, to their operations or to whatever investment that they want to, do within Nigeria. Now, as it is at the moment, we started in Nigeria because, you know, all our founders are Nigerian. It's the easiest sort of market to get into. But as I told you at the beginning, our mission is to be the trusted provider of African data. So we do have plans and hopes to expand, to the African market and spread outside Nigeria. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much, the main thing of what we're looking into um, in terms of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, thanks so much for that insightful look. Yes, because I think a lot of people understand that yes, you do research, you do a lot of write-ups, etc., on like trendy topics on things that you basically just pick up a subject matter that the country is discussing, and then you zoom
Yeah.
it and open it up for everybody to be able to understand the
Yeah.
details of and the nuances between the entities, etc. So that's a super interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So maybe let's pry a little into Stears data then, and maybe understand. Maybe you can share how many subscribers you currently have, if you can share, and also maybe what people are reading, and maybe a little about why people are reading what they're reading, etc.
So in terms of the actual subscriber number, that is something that I currently can't disclose. Um, so you're just gonna have to take your own guess. But in terms of what people are mostly reading, we have a lot of interest, in economic issues within Nigeria. Obviously, there is that focus on wanting to know, okay, what exactly is going on in Nigeria, and what does that mean for us? All these policies. There is a huge interest in our CBN content because the CBN is always coming up with new policies. They're always pushing out new reforms, etc. So people are trying to understand what exactly
It's
is this?
yeah.
What does it mean? And I think that pretty much answers the why. It's just, as I mentioned earlier, the thing with data is that on information is it's available, but sometimes you don't understand what it means. Just because it's there doesn't mean that it makes sense. So I think that's probably why people are always very much interested, especially with our CBN content, because they want to understand why exactly did the CBN do this, and what exactly does that mean for the Nigerian economy, for the Nigerian people? Is it actually going to benefit us, or is it just is it not going to have any effect whatsoever? So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that makes a lot of sense. That adds up definitely for a layperson like myself, and maybe a few people in the audience as well. Because yeah, I think with the whole you can't purchase things with dollar with your Naira card, you have to buy dollar, and then it's not available from the bank. You have to buy possibly from the power,
Yeah.
etc. So there's a lot of that people are trying to understand. So I definitely understand that. So maybe you can share a little about you in terms of like what sort of article has really, been interesting for you to look at from Steers, and maybe point a few of our listeners in that direction as well. Get something insightful to read.
So interesting enough for you to say, yourself as a layman. I honestly like to believe I'm also part of that group. And which was why it was very interesting for me. Like, I tend to kind of come into work and maybe I've heard something, and I literally just go to someone within our newsroom and I'm like, so yeah, I heard about this thing. I have no idea what it means. I have no idea what, can you explain why? Why is this happening? It's not making sense to me. And they're usually very helpful. In terms of, an article that I have read that really sort of resonated with me, or I really enjoyed the insights I got from. I actually have a personal interest in education, especially I'm not necessarily doing anything about it at the moment, but especially sort of just the Nigerian education system. I sometimes see how it is, and I just have a lot of questions as to why we're not doing better, and how it can be improved. And there was actually a particular article that it was more the title that got me really interested in it. And it was basically the article on Nigerian universities should charge rich kids more. And I remember when we published that particular article and I looked at it and I'm like, hmm, okay, I wonder how what angle we're coming at this from. And I read the article and I really resonated with it. And I could see how, like, what an interesting concept it was bringing forth. So it basically spoke about the current US model, US university model, which is a sticker price, net price model, whereby basically the US has a sticker price, which is what is advertised on their sites. But the actual price that people pay, or their students pay, which is the net price, varies. It varies based on different conditions. So, the social, basically the
That
income,
Yeah.
of the background, where you're from, things like that. And it made so much sense to me, because I was like, to be fair, you need money to be able to provide quality education. So, but you can't charge everybody the amount of money you need. So what we currently have within the Nigerian university, especially public university, this is a focus on public universities, is that, they're charging really small amounts so that a lot of people can go to university. But realistically, these small amounts that they're charging aren't allowing them to actually provide the type of quality education they need. So it's like, okay, why don't we actually charge the amount we need, but vary the amount that people pay? Now, this article broke down what the US currently does, but it also tried to view it in the Nigerian context. And it also, what I liked about the article is that it wasn't like, oh yeah, Nigeria should come and do this. It realistically said that, to be fair, these are the problems that will probably, that will arise if Nigeria tried to do it. These are things that they would have to think about. I won't, continue to bore you about the actual details. If you are interested, feel free to go read the article. But for me, just getting that insight about it really, got my mind, got my wheels turning, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, and that makes so much sense. So yeah.
No, no, I think it's definitely interesting. It wasn't boring at all. I think definitely something I'd want to take time out and actually look at, because that's something that we haven't discussed in this country. And I think everyone just wants the prices of everything to just keep going lower and lower. And maybe at some stage we have to just sort of figure out, well, how are we going to pay for this? And yes, there's a lot of issues with the funds, etc. That's another podcast. But I think it's definitely an interesting perspective that hopefully the right people find it, and maybe start acting in that direction.
Hopefully.
So going into your role, I know that you've been as like chief of staff for Stears for about a year going in now.
Yeah.
So I have seen like the role chief of staff in a few organizations begin to come up. I think at first it started out in politics, where
Yeah.
like a governor or a senator or a president would have a chief of staff. So I'm trying to sort of get my own understanding of the role, because I know that you have a bit of a background in HR. You also have a bit of a background in business analytics, etc. So I wanted to find out, and hopefully a few of my listeners as well, a few of our listeners, to sort of understand a little about what a chief of staff is and what it does. And I know that yes, for a chief of staff for Steers would be different from a chief of staff elsewhere as well. So yeah, so maybe just walk us through a little about your role.
Yeah, that last statement you made was very, very accurate. The chief of staff role can vary significantly depending on the organization or the executive that, is using the chief of staff, or that has the chief of staff. And that was that was one of the first things I learned, sort of after having worked, in the role for quite a bit, because it's not a role that, that's is one size fits all. Basically, it's a role that's it's very flexible. Now when I think about a chief of staff role in my context, what I do within Stairs, um honestly, my main focus, I literally like to say, whenever people ask me, okay, so what do you do as the chief of staff, I'm like, literally, my main focus, my main goal is to make the CEO's life easier. Like, I am there to sort of be that barrier to kind of help him focus on what he needs to focus on, and, block out all the external background noise. Whatever, regardless of what that requires me to be involved in. So whether it means I have to be dealing with accounting matters or legal matters or operational people, or even admin matters. So anything that eventually, someone feels like, oh, okay, we want to get the CEO's, input on, I kind of come and act as that buffer to say, okay, actually, what do you need? Is it something I could potentially just end up doing for you or providing assistance? And if it's not, I try and filter all the information to the bare minimum, to like the highest level possible, so that when we are taking that information to him, it is almost at decision making level. So we're literally just going to him saying, okay, this issue came up. These were the things that we thought up. We need you to just sort of make a final decision. And what that pretty much means is that at the end of it, he's getting just high level information, and he doesn't really have to focus on the details. Um, and then, all he just has to do is just make decisions, and it allows him to focus on the more strategic, company-wide issues. So I kind of like to see myself as the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
I sit down, I think about my undergrad degree as an accountant, thinking that, oh, I'm never going to use this again. And actually, it has become such a benefit to me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, no, definitely. I think that sounds like a chief of staff though, to me, maybe. Because if I think of like Rob Emanuel or someone with Barack Obama, I would assume
Yeah.
that's like his job to make, Obama's life easier. So he's just focused on like high level, etc. So yeah, I think maybe we're on the right path with that one. So definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the time to share that. So, but it must be very demanding, right? It must be like you're wearing different hats, you're doing different roles. Because I know that as CEO, most CEOs have to sort of do a bit of everything. You know,
Yeah.
you can't put them in a bracket. So I'm assuming yours as chief of staff as well is also super demanding. You're stretched in all directions. So how do you find balance, or what do you do for balance?
That's a good question. I will be honest and say I'm still trying to figure it out, because every time you feel like you found something that works, because of the sort of dynamic nature of one being, working in a startup, and two, the role itself, working with the CEO, there's what's working for me one time doesn't work. It might not be working in a few months. But something that I think has stayed constant, and I just try to maintain where possible, is first of all, at the beginning of my day, as you said, I tend to wear a lot of different hats. And so when you're wearing a lot of different hats, it's very easy for you. It's hard to focus on one thing. So what I try and do is I try and sort of organize my day into, or organize my tasks into the different sectors, or into the different sort of areas that they're concerned. So that way, it's not just a list of to-dos. It's literally like sectioned into, okay, these are to-dos for accounting related matters, these are to-dos for legal related matters, etc. And I find that that's very helpful, because what then happens is that, I'm able to try and focus on matters regarding specific areas, and if possible, just trying to complete those before I move on to another area. So I'm not just jumping all around the place. There was actually a period where I attempted to section out my daily calendar, where it was like I actually set out time blocks. And I was like, okay, from 9 to 10, I'm doing work on this. From 10 to 1, I'm doing work on this. That worked for a bit, but then I kind of moved out of it. And then I communication is such a big thing as well. I think that communication is very, very important, because the role can get quite, it's a stretchy role. It can get quite overwhelming sometimes. And I feel like it's very, very important. Something that I personally think is important is the ability to sort of communicate that, whereby it's like, okay, you know what, this, whether it's a conversation, it depends on what the situation is. Sometimes it's a conversation I might have with the CEO. Sometimes it's a conversation I might have with my other direct team, where it's like, okay, this is where I currently am. I am actually at full capacity. So I do not have the capacity to take on any additional work at this moment, because it's very, very important to learn when to say no. I will want to say, you know what, I can't do it at this moment. So if it's very important, then maybe, could you find somebody else? Or maybe we can look at my current, workload and see what we can shuffle around so that I can accommodate it. And that's something that I have found has been very, very helpful for me. Because it's really important. If not, what you're going to find yourself doing is constantly saying yes, and you just don't have the time.
Yeah.
um, because there's so many hours in a day, and there's only so much you can actually get done within those hours. So yeah, that's pretty much how I've managed to deal with it.
True. I certainly agree. I think that that's spot on. So sort of compartmentalizing. So
Yeah.
put it in like different departments in, on your desk and say, okay, I'm going to focus on legal, I'm going to focus on HR matters, I'm going to focus on accounting issues, etc. And then if
Yeah.
you're at capacity, then you let your team know, and then they can maybe help you prioritize a few of the other tasks, or they can shuffle it
Hmm.
in the organization. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
I certainly agree, and I think that's super useful. I have to go back and rewatch a few of these things to note down some things. So that's definitely something that I need to put into play for sure. So,
Yeah.
so I was gonna ask. I don't know if you've come across this prior, but I know that you do have well, Stairs and yourself do have a very strong reputation. So I have had a lot of interviews because I run several organizations where a lot of people have just mentioned Stairs in like the best of light. Like it's just this like
Oh.
yeah, it's just like this like place that everyone wants to work for. So I wanted to ask maybe you could share a little about the magic ingredient behind the scenes that that you guys have cooking that makes people want to work for your company.
Well, when you say magic ingredient, I don't know that there's a magic ingredient per se. But when I think about, what you've asked, um, something comes to mind. At Stairs, culture is key. Like culture is a very, very important. It's a very important part of us. I like to believe we live like, and this is across the board. I like to believe we live, breathe, and like eat, you know, the Stairs culture. And we're just very, very intentional about, about maintaining that culture. And, this starts from right from the recruitment process. We ensure we're not just looking for somebody that's technically competent or technical fit. We also want someone that's also a cultural fit, because there's already an existing culture, and we don't want that to we never want that to be watered down. And we also want whoever is coming externally into the company to literally just come in and like feel like they're part of the family. And so that's something that I feel like is something that we really focus on, because something that I heard is that whether you are intentional or not about it, culture will exist. So we take our time to try and build and be intentional about our culture, so that it's not just any random culture that's built within the organization. It's something that we are actually proud of. And I think that that is probably what has helped us maintain such a good sort of, good, reputable brand, or at least I like to believe
Yeah,
that it has had its hand
definitely,
in it.
definitely. I think that's well said. I think culture is so underrated in our culture as well. So yeah, I think that's really well said because I definitely agree. So last question before I let you go, what should we be looking forward to from Stairs with the upcoming elections for next year?
So yeah, I actually forgot to mention it at the beginning, and I think this was something that I'd mentioned in our earlier conversation, but in 2019, Stairs we attempted to basically report the results for the 2019 election. And what we're trying to get out of that was, it wasn't just reporting the results, but reporting it with a focus on data visualization. So we wanted it to be, it wasn't just putting out the numbers. We wanted to put out the numbers, but we also wanted to report it in a way that was visually appealing and also easily understandable so that you could kind of make comparisons. And surprisingly enough, that was quite, that was quite a hit. And so we decided, you know what, we're definitely gonna, try this again. And that's what we're currently working on, as the 2023 elections quietly creep in. So what we're doing is, if I could break it down into like three key things, is one, we are relaunching the Stears election, which is supposed to be, or which is going to be a data site that allows people to follow the election at a federal and state level. So, once again, that focus on data visualization, reporting accurate and prompt information for, for everyone to easily access. The second thing we're doing is we're innovating. We're trying to be innovative in the field of polling. We want to basically aggregate public opinion on the election. So everybody, has something to say about it. Everyone has an opinion as to what exactly is going to happen, or what they think is going to happen, or what they want to happen. And what we want to do is we're going to literally push out surveys to get public opinion, aggregate that data, and then present it, to the public so that people get to know, okay, this is how people are thinking. And we're trying to do this in an as innovative a manner as possible. And then last thing, as I said, we wouldn't be Stears if we did not provide insights. And so what we are doing is, our trademark analysis, and we're doing this through a flagship initiative, which is called 2524 series. And this is an election focused, this basically an election focused articles analyzing, the different data information about elections, the Nigerian elections. Now, 2524 actually came from basically, in Nigeria, you need 25% of popular votes in at least 24 states in Nigeria to become the president. So that was what, sort of inspired that, that title. And it's something that's being covered by Faye Fawemi. So yeah, those are like, when I think about what we're looking to do in terms of the upcoming elections, those are the three main things that we're looking to get into.
Okay. Thanks so much for taking the time to detail all of that. Just to sort of confirm, would we be able to get access to those links for the elections yet, or those are still in the
So the articles are available. They're available on our Stears. It's available to our subscribers on our Stears premium website, on our Stears website. That's something I can, always shoot you a link to. In terms of the election data site, that is something that is currently in the works. And once it is available, once it's complete and available, we will definitely be pushing it out on our different platforms, and that will be made available to the general public.
Okay. Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest, Matinat Ajeigbe. We're so happy.
Thanks so much for having me.
Joined us, and we learned so much from you as well. And we hope that you get to come back again soon.
Hopefully. Yeah, definitely enjoyed being here and just sort of talking about, Stears and my role as a COS. So thanks so much for having me again.